Hey everybody, Neil Flynn back once again, and it is Sports Shorts time. And I thought I'd do something a little bit different to start this video off. A couple of you guys have been getting in on these videos and kind of asking questions, and normally I've been responding just via comment to your question on the previous video. But I think from now on, if you guys have questions, I will go ahead and answer them on the next week's video, just to kind of add something a little bit to it and make it a little easier for me to answer your guys' questions. So please, if you guys have questions, if there's something you want me to talk about, please leave a comment, let me know, and I will absolutely, answer your questions or talk about whatever you guys want me to talk about. This is your show as much as it is my show, so please feel free to, ask questions and leave comments. So a couple questions that came out of the last video. Ototo wanted to know if his Pacers would make the playoffs this year. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to happen. The Pacers, ever since Reggie Miller left, have not had a leader on that team, and I think that's what's holding them back. The center, I can't remember his name now. I was just looking at this online. I can't remember his name, but he finally stepped up and was kind of griping after they got blown out by Philadelphia. But there's not a lot of talent on that team, and it doesn't the Eastern Conference is very stacked, and it doesn't look good for the Pacers this year. Sorry to say. Next up was Spundy, who had a couple questions talking about the UFC, about whether Tito Ortiz should be let go after his last fight, which he pretty much got dominated. I think Dana's the type of guy that likes to let guys go out on their own terms, so I don't think he would just straight up let him go. He may give him one more fight, and if that doesn't work out for him, then that may be the end of Tito. I'd love to see him get in there with Chuck again, just because that fight never happened when it was supposed to, and I think Chuck could actually whoop his ass, so that would be nice to see. But like I said, I think Dana will let him go out, give him one more fight and try and let him go out on his own terms. What was the other question? My thoughts on the WEC-UFC merger, which Dana announced. Basically, they're folding the WEC into the UFC. I think it'll be very good. It'll give the WEC fighters a lot more recognition. Guys like Uriah Faber that, those of us that follow the sport know about. But if, you're kind of on the fringe, all you ever hear about is the UFC, you wouldn't know, you don't know about these WEC guys that are just in there wrecking it. So I think it'll be very good, and it'll make for better fights, getting all these guys together. And the WEC had divisions that UFC didn't have, so it's not going to affect. I think there was one that they were going to combine, and I don't remember the specifications of it, but other than that, they had their own divisions, so I think it'll be good. And hopefully that'll open it up to putting more UFC on regular TV, which is somebody, was talking about how, great the UFC is, and I said, yeah, but it's not on TV a lot, and that's my only problem with it. But I think it's getting to that point where they're trying to put it on TV more. So hopefully it gets to that. Hopefully this merger helps that with WC being on Versus and things like that. And yeah, a couple guys called out that my San Francisco Giants pick for the World Series was looking good, and absolutely that's what happened. I was shocked in the manner at which it happened. They made it look so easy against Texas, it was kind of frightening. But yeah, I got to give myself credit on that one. I called the Giants from the beginning. You guys were there to see it from my MLB playoff special, and yeah, I just something about that team. I had a feeling about them that they had gotten on a roll at the right time, and they'd basically been playing playoff baseball for the last couple weeks of the season, and that showed in the playoffs. They really didn't have a struggle. I mean, they won a lot of close games, but they won the games when they needed to, and they almost made it look easy when it got World Series time. I was surprised how easy. Beating Cliff Lee twice, you're doing something right. So, very happy that pick worked out for me. A couple other things I wanted to talk about this week, just real quick. Number one, a story that was on Yahoo last night about Kevin Garnett and his trash-talking ways, and apparently calling Charlie Villanueva, who is bald, and I guess that was the reason for the comment. He said, Charlie Villanueva says that he called him a cancer patient, basically. Kevin Garnett says, that's not what I said. I said he was a cancer to his team and the league, or something like that. And I'm not a Kevin Garnett fan by any means. I've never really liked the way he carries himself. and he sounded like Special Ed when they won the championship, and he's like, anything is possible. But but um, but yeah, I've never been a big Kevin Garnett fan, and for him to in the heat of the moment be like, "You are a cancer to your team and the league," I highly doubt that that's what he said. Whether or not he called him a cancer patient, I don't know, but you know, it's just. You got to watch yourself on things like that. Obviously, cancer is a thing that touches a lot of people, and it's not something to be made light of. So, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a Kevin Garnett fan, and I don't know what he actually said, but you don't want to put yourself in that light. And the other thing is the Randy Moss saga of this past week. Randy Moss is just a really, really interesting character. He did, you know, really well for himself a couple years there in New England, and then they'd had enough, you know, apparently whatever happened this year, they'd had enough, so off he goes to Minnesota for a third-round pick, which can be a valuable pick in the draft, and he lasts, what, 2 weeks in Minnesota? And, you know, it's unclear what fully led to his release, and they came out with a story about some catered dinner where they have, you know, a local kind of mom-and-pop restaurant come in and cater their practices on Friday. And he said, you know, this expletive deleted shit, you know, is crap. I wouldn't feed this to my dog. And so, you know, an unnamed Viking player was like, it was very uncomfortable. It was a very weird situation to be in. And so some are saying that's part of it, that they just didn't want that type of thing around the organization. He really hasn't produced, although they have been scoring more since he's been around because he opens up the field for other people. But very interesting, and now it sounds like, I think it was the Titans who've picked him up, so it'd be interesting to see how long he lasts there. I don't know if the Titans is a good fit. They don't, you know, Vince Young is kind of a questionable leader at quarterback, and I think that was the thing that kept him in line in New England, was they had, you know, this leader, you know, this veteran leadership, and the coach doesn't take anything, so I think that's kind of what kept him in line, but it'd be interesting to see what happens. So those are the stories for the week. Getting into the pick rundown. If I can flip the page over to last week here. Finally got back into the winning ways. Excuse me. We went 2-2 in college, and actually went 3-1 in the NFL. And a funny story about that is, if you guys remember when I first started doing this, I told you guys how at work we do a football, you know, NFL picks every week. And you pick every game, and then you pick points for the Monday night if it goes to a tiebreaker. I actually, for the last week, I actually won. I was the only guy that missed 3 games, was all I missed for the whole NFL slate. It actually came down to the Pittsburgh-New Orleans game, which I had as one of my picks here. Kind of funny. It was, if Pittsburgh had won, then another guy would have won. If New Orleans win, which they did, then that meant I won. So I actually won $260, which is kind of impressive for jotting down a bunch of picks on a piece of paper, so I'm kind of happy. Hopefully I can win another time this year and be rolling in the money. Yeah, 26 people played, and so yeah, $260. I was kind of impressed. So real quick, we'll run down last week's picks. Florida at Georgia, which was played in Jacksonville, so it's kind of a new, you know, odd thing that it was Florida at Georgia, but they were the 2.5 dog. I gave you that. They won outright. It came down to overtime. They kicked the field goal to win it. It was beautiful. Utah at Air Force. Utah was 7-point favorite. Unfortunately, they won the game, but they didn't cover the spread, so we missed that one. I thought USC would give Oregon a run for their money. It didn't happen. Oregon looked really good in that game. And then Michigan State at Iowa. Iowa was a 6.5-point favorite, and they dominated that game. So 2-2 in college. Moving on to the NFL. Denver at San Francisco. That game was played in London. I gave you San Francisco as the favorite, and they won. Next up was Miami at Cincinnati. Miami, the 2-point dog on the road, which they're actually undefeated on the road, and they pulled another one off, so that was a good win there. Tennessee at San Diego. I don't know what happened to Tennessee, but they didn't come through for us on that one. And then last but not least, Pittsburgh at New Orleans. New Orleans, the 1-point favorite, and they actually won by, what was it, 10 points, I think, in the end. So a very good game for New Orleans. And we're kind of cutting it close a little bit here on time, so I'm going to speed these up just a little bit. Getting into the picks for this week, and kind of an interesting... as I was going through making my, you know, scrolling down the list trying to find games to pick, I found myself picking a lot of upsets, and then I kind of forced myself to do an all upset special. So I don't know how this is going to work out. I could fall flat on my face here. But it is an all upset special for the picks this week. So starting off in college, I have Maryland at Miami. Maryland, the 8-point dog. Miami is down to like their fourth string quarterback, I think. And now it sounds like their running back might not play either. So I don't know. Maryland is kind of an up and down team this year, but I don't know, just something about that game. I think Maryland, whether or not they win, I don't know, but they'll keep it close, I think. So I think the 8 points is a little bit too much. And it also goes for my friend at work who wants Miami to lose. She's a Miami fan, but she hates Randy Shannon, and she wants him to get fired. So the more they lose, the better it is for her. So we'll pick Maryland in that one. Next up, we got Hawaii at Boise State. Boise State, the 21-point favorite. God, that's a lot of points. And Hawaii is very underrated. They went out and beat Nevada, who everybody was kind of looking at as the team to knock off Boise State. I don't think Hawaii is actually going to win, but I think they'll keep it close. I think it'll be a touchdown game in the end. I think it'll be much closer than 21 points. So we'll see what happens there. Normally I would stay far, far away from a spread like that, but just something tells me it's going to be close. Next up, the big game of the week. In some people's eyes, other people are looking at Alabama, LSU, but a lot of people are looking at TCU at Utah. Two undefeated teams that a lot of people, say shouldn't be there. I'm not one of them. I think TCU, Utah, Boise State, all those guys are very underrated. Utah's proven it the 2 other times they've gone undefeated, and then they went and won their BCS bowl game. Ask Alabama how good Utah is. Utah is actually the 4.5-point dog at home, so a lot of people looking at TCU to be the better team. And despite the fact that Utah didn't cover for me last week, I think at home they're a much better team. TCU is going to struggle at altitude, and I look for Utah to pull the victory out. But either way, I think it'll be close. So 4.5. Go with Utah on that one. And last but not least, in the college game, we got Navy at East Carolina. East Carolina coming off a loss to UCF. Navy is another team. Remember when I picked Notre Dame against them, I was like, that offense scares me a little bit. And I don't know if East Carolina has players to defend that option for 4 quarters. So we're going to go with Navy, the 2.5-point dog in that one. Moving on to the NFL. Starting off with, I don't know, it seems I pick against them every week, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We got San Diego going to Houston. Houston, the 2.5-point home dog. I'm going to go ahead and slap the ATM lock on this one. I like Houston to win it outright. I like them to win it big as well. Next up, we got Indianapolis at Philadelphia. Indianapolis, the 3-point dog on the road. Philly is such a hit-and-miss team this year that, and Peyton is Peyton. I trust Peyton to win a lot of games, and I think he'll win this one. Next up, we got Chicago at Buffalo. Look, Buffalo's 0-7. They're a 3-point dog at home. They got to win sometime, right? We can't have another winless team following in the footsteps of Detroit. So I like Buffalo to put it on Jay Cutler and take care of it. They picked up Sean Merriman, although that's not going to affect this game. But I don't know. There's something that they got to win sometime. So we'll pick Buffalo this week in the all upset special. And last but not least, Kansas City at Oakland. Kansas City, the 2.5-point dog. Kansas City, I don't know. They've surprised me this year, and Oakland's been on the rise the last couple of weeks. But I look for them to have a letdown this week, and I look for Kansas City to win the game. So there you guys go. Real quick, in the final minute here, we'll run these down. Maryland over Miami at 8 points. Hawaii, the 21-point dog at Boise State. Utah, 4.5 over TCU. Navy, 2.5 dog over East Carolina. Houston, 2.5 over San Diego. Indy, plus the 3 at Philadelphia. Buffalo, plus the 3 at home against Chicago. And Kansas City, plus the 2.5 at Oakland. There you go, guys. Like I said, leave me comments, ask me questions, and I will answer them next week. So take care, guys, and thanks for watching.